had been an actor for like 20 years or something like that. I started out doing theater, never having the slightest intention of ever doing anything to do with performing arts because I was chronically shy, could not stand in front of people, couldn't even dream of talking in front of people. For me, destiny is always like, it's whatever pushes against me, not always this thing that says, come on this way, you know. But I auditioned for the school play, which I auditioned to play Oberon in Midsummer Night's Dream. The casting list goes up like 3 days later or something, and the casting list went up, and I'm like, Oberon, not me. Nowhere. I didn't feel like I get spear carrier, second acorn on the left in this oak scene, nothing, you know. And I'm like, well, that just, okay, all right. And somehow I got a fire lit underneath me. I start like doing everything I can. I joined the speech club and the speech room, which turned out to be perfect. And then Berkeley Rep came out, the professional theater company, and they auditioned. And I went to the audition, and this was right after that show had ended. And I auditioned doing the monologue that I had done to not get the play. And of course, and with the same people that I just did before, and I got that. So I ended up as an apprentice, you know, at Berkeley Repertory Theater, a professional theater company. I thought, my gosh, I guess I'm an actor because they hired me after that next summer to be professional, and I started working. Then I went to drama school in London, and then, you know, and then I came back and I was acting, and all of a sudden, like, I was a professional actor, and I had absolutely no idea how that happened. And then one thing, then trade shows started up, and then one day I get this phone call from a friend of mine. I'm on the beach. He goes, you should come and audition for this trade show in Las Vegas because it's, you know, it's going to be cool. It's a trade show and it's in Las Vegas. And I said, there is no way I'm going to go crash an audition. I'm a professional actor. I do not walk in the door and audition and say, hey, can I read for this thing? Because they don't want me, otherwise they'd have asked me. What's the address? And I don't know why, but I got off the beach, went to this audition. Of course I was late, because I'm always late. And I walk in the door, as he's walking out the door, the producer and the guy with the camera bag and the thing, walking out the door, and I said, hi, can I read for this part? And he just literally goes, all right, come on in. We'll set the camera back up. Look, you're an Italian plumber from Brooklyn. And there's going to be this real-time animation system, so when you move your face, you'll have these things glued to you and taped all over the place, so when you move your face, that'll make the cartoon character go in the same time. Now, it's a video game character, so, you know, make up a voice, make up an accent, make up a video game, and you start talking, and whenever you stop talking, that's your audition. You know, and I'm sitting there going, okay, you know, Italian plumber from Brooklyn, you know, hey, how you doing? I'm under your sink, don't bother me, you know. Hey, all right, working here, you know. So I'm like, no, because I have this real, I have a very careful attention to life, you know, I thought because it could be for kids, I'm going to do something that's more nice and sweet, and you know, and so I didn't want to do something gruff and grumpy. And I'm sitting thinking, well, I played Gremio and Take Me the Shrew a few years before, and that was, you know, nice old Italian guy, talking like this, mamma mia. Like, oh, that could be fun, you know, make him younger. But video game, well, how do you make up a video game? You know, how do you do that, you know? And well, I'll just talk about things, you know, and I'll just talk, and then when he tells me to stop talking, that will be that, you know? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, I could talk about action. Hello, I'm a Mario. Okie dokie, let's make a pizza pie together. You go get some sausage, I'm going to get some spaghetti. We're going to put the spaghetti and the sausage in the pizza. Then I'm going to chase you the pizza. If I catch you the pizza, you got to eat the pizza. Then we're going to make a lasagna. You're going to chase me for lasagna. Then we make a spaghetti meatball. You know, and I'm sitting there doing this going, well, this is kind of fun. You know, everything throwing in everything the kids do. I have no idea what I was going on about, but I just kept talking. And I'm like, okay, well, he's supposed to say stop now. And he didn't say stop. And so I'm like, I'm not stopping. So I just kept talking. And, you know, and it turns out that he turned to the camera guy, or the camera guy turned to him and said, Ralph, do you think if we walked out the room and came back, you know, had a drink, and came back and they'd still be talking? Ralph goes, yeah, let's go. You know? So I kept talking, like, for I think about 40 minutes or so, and I heard, cut, stop talking. There's no more tape. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Which, of course, to the actor is the kiss of death. There's the door. Goodbye. I'm like, okay, thank you very much. Bye. And I went back to the beach. I saw the sunset. And I didn't think about it, but I walked out the door, and he called on the phone. He called Don Jim and says, I found our Mario. I got him. Because I was the only actor. I don't know why exactly, but I was the only actor that didn't go, hey, how you doing? I'm Mario here. We're having a great day. You mean something like that? Because as soon as you break character, it was done. He said, talk until you run out of things to say. So when you break character, you've run out of things to say as that character. So for me, it's just the lessons in that for me was just, you know, having fun and just not stopping having fun. And that's what I certainly wish for everybody in your life. Whatever you do, whatever you dream of doing and becoming is, you know, follow your heart, pursue your destiny, express the love that you have for yourself and your family and your friends and for whatever it is that you have in the work that you do. And just know that when you are doing that, you absolutely will be successful. You'll have fun, you'll have a great time. In success, I don't measure in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of happiness and the way that you can touch people in your work. That's really successful when you have an impact in somebody's life. And that's what I, you know, I think that's why everyone becomes an actor, or why they become a lawyer, or why they become a, you know, but you know, life has a way of sort of like getting in your way, and it's like, wait a minute, more important to make 7-figure income than it is to make people happy, or it's more important to do this, but you know, keeping your eye on the ball, and that's been something I've been really lucky to be able to do. So that was kind of like a long version of how did you get the voice of Mario, but that's how I got it, and that was 22 years ago. And it's been an absolute joyride from the very beginning all the way to now, and it keeps getting better, you know, coming to cons like this and getting to meet people that are, you know, doing what they love to do here. It's fantastic party, wonderful atmosphere, and an atmosphere of joy and passion and fun, and it's like grown-up Halloween. It's the greatest.
Pretty much.
But I also do media and stuff like that, so I'm going to South America next week, and I'm going to go meet fans of Mario in Colombia and in Chile, and I've met them all over the world. And you know, you just when you do what you love to do, the opportunities just keep coming. You know, so my thing is to you is keep doing it, keep having fun, keep pursuing what you want to do. You know, and if that's to be a garbage man, be the best you can be and have the most fun you can do. You know, that's my thing.
That's your story.
That's my story.
Talking of a rule that I learned about a year or so ago is never follow Charles Martinet. I always want to go before Charles, not after, because my story is not nearly as colorful and certainly as animated. But before I get to that, I always feel like Charles was really the first person to which voiceover in animation made a difference. Because really up until Mario, whatever voice may have been in a video game was an afterthought. Half the time it was the actual writer doing it, or maybe the secretary or the receptionist. It didn't matter what the voice was. And Charles and what he did with Mario was the first time where the voice did matter. And the voice brought something to the game that was just as entertaining as the gameplay and the visuals. And I mean, let's face it, Mario would not be Mario were it not for the voice that Charles brought to that game. My story is fairly to the point. My career has always been in radio, and it still is. I host a radio show in Chicago on a station called The Drive, and that's what I've done for a long time. It started, I was a drummer in a rock and roll band, and you know, all through grade school and high school and into college, you know, played guitar and then drums, and you know, that's really what got me off. That was what was really fun. And we got, you know, the band that we had in college got to a level of mediocrity that I thought was about as far as we were going to get. But we were at some point where, are we just going to be playing fraternity parties and that kind of thing, and birthdays and bar mitzvahs, or are we going to try to actually make something of it? And as Charles said, you need to sort of follow your dream and follow your heart and follow what really gets you jazzed up. And so, well, what could it be? Well, I thought maybe being some sort of record producer, that kind of thing. And in those days, there was no such thing as classes you could take, or you couldn't major in record producing in college, at least not that I knew of. So I thought, hey, the college has a local radio station. That might be and I had taken a radio course. And again, Charles mentions, somebody who can be influential in your life, and there was a professor there who said that I might have had some potential in it. And it was the first time in my life that somebody said I was good at something other than f***ing up, and which I was really good at. And, but this was the first time you got, from somebody whose opinion you respected, some encouragement, to move on. And that was all I needed, and I just jumped into it with both feet. I fell in love with radio, and I've been doing it ever since. And moved out to Los Angeles and did well there, and while there, started to explore the world of voiceover, which seemed like a natural, sort of next step. And got an agent and started doing commercial work, and with some degree of success, and that was fine. I moved to Chicago in '97, was there a couple of years, and was doing radio, doing some commercial voiceover work, and got a call to come and read for a video game, which I did. The guy who called me was a fellow by the name of Marty O'Donnell, and I read for a game. I had a sort of a minor role in this game that I encourage all of you not to seek out. Hopefully it's still on the internet. But if it is, it's called Septerra Core, and you would have an opportunity to see somebody doing his first video game, and all that implies. But the good news was, and this is how fate sort of takes turns that you never know. A year later, he called again, and this time he's working for Bungie, and he said, we have a new game, and I think you would be right for this character. Great, fine, okay, what's it pay? I'm in, And so I came in, we did a couple of days work on it, it was fun, and I had, he gave me a description of the character, but I had no visual reference, there was nothing to see yet. So we just talked about, what this world was, this world called, Halo, and what it was, and who this character Master Chief was in that world, and how Marty saw him, and the main direction I took away from it was that he sort of visioned him as a Clint Eastwood, circa for a few dollars more, and the spaghetti western stuff that Clint, man of few words, a lot of action. He doesn't say much, but when he does, somebody's usually going to die. So that was my vision, sort of my image of going in. So like I said, we did a couple of days work on it. It was my first real video game where you have, what I refer to as the death sessions, where you'll do a couple of hours of basically the various forms of how your character is going to die, and which is a lot of screaming and yelling for literally hour upon hour. Wow. And I thought, it's the first time I ever felt like at the end of the session I actually earned my money, because it was grueling. Okay. Fast forward to about 9 months later. Now, and I don't make any secret about this. I was not in the video game world at that point. I have since attempted to play Halo on any number of occasions, but once you've had your clock cleaned by about a half a dozen 12-year-olds, maybe this end of it isn't for me. So the point is, I had no idea what was happening with this game. And 9 months later, I'm visiting with a friend of mine down in Florida, and his kids are playing the game. I walked through the family room one day, and they're playing Halo. And I was like, now you got to remember, back up a little bit. When I got down to see him, he's telling his kids, Steve's on the radio in Chicago. Nothing like that. That's the reaction I got. Well, Steve, sometimes you'll be watching commercials on TV, and he voices some of these commercials. Flatline. No impression whatsoever. So I walked to the family room one day, and I said, I think I have a voice in that game. And they're like, What? Who? And I literally could not remember the name of the character.
Oh, jeez.
It had made that much of an impression on me. You know, we often say that in the world of voiceover, you know whether or not what you did was a success. There's a direct correlation between a successful project and checks that may be coming in your mailbox. If you see a lot of checks, then it was a success. If you don't, you don't. Well, in video game, you don't get what they call residuals, which is highly unfortunate in the case of Halo.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you're paid for your day's work, and that's the end of the story. So anyway, it was, oh, well, what character? And I said, I don't remember his name, but I think he was the main guy. Master Chief? Yeah, it was Master Chief. 15 minutes later, there's a line outside my friend's door of every single kid in the neighborhood and then some who had brought their Xboxes or their copy of Halo for me to sign. This is a total shock to me. I had no idea. I make a beeline down to the local GameStop. I see a big cardboard cutout of Master Chief. They're selling the game like hotcakes, and that's when I realized that, oh my God, this is actually something that people are actually watching and enjoying. And of course, the rest is history. To say that I kept close tabs on it from that point on would be an understatement. And we went on, a couple of years later, went on to do Halo 2, Halo 3, did some minor work in Reach, and then at right around the time Halo 3 came out is when I started being invited to conventions like this, and then was really introduced to this world to which you inhabit. And that has been an absolute joy for me to watch you and to realize that there is a pretty significant culture. I used to call it a subculture, but I'm not even sure it's a subculture anymore. The power of video games, and more importantly, the people who enjoy them, is now surpassing major motion pictures. I mean, the Halo franchise alone is $1 billion enterprise. Again, going back to the residuals. But just to be a part of this whole thing, and of course, what really drew me in to the project in the first place was not the gaming part of it, but it was the story. I've always been a big science fiction fan, which I've always said is a painful genre to be a fan of, because there's, that's 343. Quit talking about Halo 4. Okay, gotcha. Where was I? Who was I? Is to enjoy. I really enjoyed the story part of it, and I think my feeling is that what separated Halo from the rest of the pack was not only some very sophisticated imaging and gameplay and that sort of thing. I think they certainly made strides in that area, but it was the story. It was it was the story that, I mean, for those who just wanted to be the shooter and play that part of it and fast forward through all the cinematic parts, fine. It was still a fun game to play. But if you actually enjoyed the story, I think it just enriched the whole experience. And then all the offshoots of Halo that came after that, and the books and the comic books and now the short films and all that sort of thing. It's developed into something beyond just a video game, and that has been and is what has kept me involved in it, quite frankly. And it's been an incredible ride for me, and my family gets a kick out of it. My mother especially, she's 92 years old. She has become my second, public relations person down in her retirement community in Tennessee. I'm constantly, Steve, you need to send a picture to, this person's grandson, and blah blah blah. And she refers to me as Master Chef, but despite the fact how she knows I can cook, which is not very well. I can cook about as well as I can play Halo. So, but it's just been, it's been an incredible ride, culminating now in Halo 4. which comes out November the 6th, and that has taken it. I think you'll all, I sometimes hate to talk about, things that you haven't seen yet, because sometimes you can overhype things, and it might end up being a disappointment. I don't think that's going to be the case with this.